Welcome to the Pastured Pig Podcast, where we share the successes and challenges of raising pigs on pasture. We talk to producers all over the country, from small homesteads to large commercial pasture operations. Whether you're new to pastured pigs or have been raising hogs for decades, we hope you hear new ideas and new perspectives on pasturing hogs. Here's your host, Troy McClung.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Pastured Pig Podcast. As always, I'm Troy, and wow, it has been a whirlwind of a fall. I don't know about you guys, but it seems like it's just blink of an eye. So as I'm recording this bumper, it's the 10th of November, and it just seems like October just went by in a flash, and before we know it, we're going to be carving turkeys, and some of you turkeys already have your Christmas lights up, so I won't get into that, but yeah, you know what it is. All of this is just going to go by in lightning speed. But I'm just really excited to be in this groove right now. We've had some really good interviews. It just seems like things are kind of picking up steam, building momentum as we talk with other individuals, and the networking that's going on with that. It's just exciting, and it's exciting to just find more and more people getting into pastured piggery, and I don't know, it just seems inspiring to me. It's really rekindled my desire to get my operation back up and bigger and have an actual growth plan. I know those of you guys have listened for a while that we scaled back simply because of our processing situation, and that I believe has corrected itself. We'll know here soon, because we actually have 6 beeves is the proper term, I guess. We have 6 beeves that are going to process on November 12th, and we'll be using this USDA processor that's only 45 minutes from the house. Love that. And we'll see how that goes. And that's really going to set the stage for what 2023 looks like here on Red Tool House when it comes to the amount of pigs I'm going to finish. I have 2 sows that have seemed to settle, and so their farrowing will be in January, which I think we can be ready for that. Well, I'm going to say 99% confident we'll be ready for it, but you know how that goes. That 1% can always bite you. But be ready for that, so we could have, I'd love to have as many as 20 pigs in those litters to be on the ground and be viable and be raised out, and just see how this goes. Like I said, it's kind of be a systematic process. We're going to see how the beef processing goes, how our experience with the processor is there, and that'll really set the stage to see if we have successful farrowings, Lord willing, then how many of those we're actually going to finish versus selling off for weaners or growers for other people. But we'll see how that goes. So along the lines of raising interest in pastured pigs, I got a quick funny story I want to share with you all, and this is still fresh on my mind because it's kind of going on right now. So again, those of you that have been on the podcast or know the podcast or listen to me yammer on for 90 some episodes now, you know that before I started the podcast, we have a YouTube channel that kind of details what we do here on our farm/homestead, and 600 and some odd videos in the kitty right now that we've built over the past 7 years. So it's been just tons and tons of content, and you just never know what's going to raise people's eyebrows and get people interested to say, hey, I want to watch this video. Sometimes videos do nothing. Sometimes they just take off for no reason. Well, here recently, one of those videos just took off for no reason, and it was actually influenced by one of the pastured pig interviews I've done recently. And it was a conversation I had with the interviewee where we were just talking about how pigs clear land. And I thought, I wonder how many people outside of the pastured pig world really understand how beneficial pigs are, and that's such a value-added service they bring to the farm. So I did a video about that of, if you have raw land, here's why you need pigs now. And holy moly, that thing has taken off like gangbusters. It is, I don't even think it's 2 weeks old yet, and it's I believe it's going to surpass 100,000 views here in the next probably in the next 2 hours. And my videos don't get anywhere near that, and it's crazy to see that take off. But what's interesting is how many people in the comment section, if you're really, really bored or you have a really lower intestinal issue that keeps you in the certain facility for a long time, bring up and flip through the comments. And just read some of the comments, because it's people like, I had no idea. Can I do this? Can I do that? I was going to do this, and I've never thought about pigs. And I'm thinking, man, did I let the genie out of the bottle here? Are we causing issues? Because some of the other comments were people really upset. The fact that, oh yeah, if you want feral pigs, do what this joker's talking about. If you want, ask Texas and Louisiana how great this idea is. And I think I really ticked off about most of Texas in the process, because man, there were some really angry comments that were made about that. So it was interesting. And I'm like, wow, okay, yeah, we've struck a nerve clearly on both sides of this issue. And it's really caused me to do some more research. In fact, I'm still collecting information from various sources just to see, are pastured pigs responsible for the feral pig population in some of these areas, especially in the Deep South? And what I'm finding is the answer is no, they are not. That these pigs were introduced back in the 1800s and early 1900s as Eurasian pigs. And then there's a lot of transport where people are taking these wild pigs that they're capturing, and they're taking them to other parts of the country so that they can release them there to have additional game to hunt. So it's really kind of these game farm / hunting preserves, and they say, hey, we've got impregnable fence that are going to keep the pigs in, and then of course, as everyone knows, the pig proves them wrong. So it's really interesting. So I kind of find myself wanting to crusade against all these people that are saying, this is how you cause feral pig issues. But there is something to an escaped pastured pig that nobody's going to be responsible for, that even though it's a domesticated breed, that there is a generational opportunity for them to return to becoming feral. So I don't think it's a smoking gun to say absolutely not, but it's nowhere near the blame game that some people want to say. Anyway, that was totally a different conversation there, but I just thought that was interesting. And again, you just don't know what's going to raise people's attention, but 100,000 views of people that either were completely unaware that pigs would do what they can do, or 100,000 people are like, I can't believe this joker's promoting that, because that's going to just make things worse. But anyway, if you get a chance, check that. At least check out the comments. I don't want to necessarily plug, hey, watch my video, but read the comments. They're quite interesting. Well, along the lines of social media, keep in mind the Pastured Pig Facebook group is out there. It's a closed group. Just answer one simple question. You can join. We've had some good conversation going on there, and seems like I'm approving people daily. So it's growing. It's not lightning speed, but it is growing. So there's good discussion happening there. And of course, our Patreon. I appreciate we've picked up several new supporters here in the last couple of weeks. And I really appreciate that. And again, it's not that I want to be a beggar and ask for money, but that really is to me a metric of how much value you guys find in this. Like I said, 2.5 years in, creeping up on 96 episodes, I believe. And it's one of those things where with a podcast, you kind of feel like you're just talking in the abyss, because there's not that immediate response opportunity that you have. So when you guys do that, and it's something as little as $5 a month, when you support that, then that really just, to me, is probably some of the best feedback I get, to say, wow, okay, people do find value in this. They find this to be more than just interesting, that there is something that they're gleaning from this. So I appreciate that. If it's something you can do, obviously I know the economy is not the greatest right now, and we're all watching our dollars. So if you've been listening to the podcast since day one, and you're on 95 episodes and you haven't been able to support, I get it. I don't want to shame anyone into that you feel obligated to do it. But if you have that opportunity, really appreciate it, and really appreciate support. And I promise we're still exploring all kinds of different things that we want to add to Patreon support, and really want your all's feedback as well, because I don't want to necessarily develop something that you guys don't find valuable. But if you are a supporter, or you're thinking about supporting, say, hey, I think maybe this would be very helpful, then give me that feedback, and we'll see what we can do to incorporate that into our Patreon options. Well, okay, enough about me. Let's talk about you. No, let's get into our interview. And I want to jump into this because this was a good interview. I enjoyed this one. This is kind of the second one where we were talking to various breed associations. So today in this podcast, we'll be talking with Corey Edge, who is the executive director of the American Berkshire Association. And this association obviously has a storied history, been around a while, and so it's really interesting to see the scale and the magnitude in which this association operates. So Corey, we spend some time really just talking about the breed itself at first, but then we really get into the association and why, if you do anything with Berkshire, why it's advantageous to be a member and, of course, even to register your Berks. So without any further yammering, let's jump into that discussion, and I'll catch you guys on the tail end. Today we're going to tiptoe into the land of another breed association, and I've really enjoyed these conversations so far, and I think this one is not going to disappoint at all. Today I'm going all the way to the top. I've got Corey Edge, who's the executive director of the American Berkshire Association. Welcome, Corey.
Hey, Troy. Thanks for having me.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to sit down and talk with me. I know time is of the essence right now. I'm sure there's a lot going on in the association. It's pretty big. It's a pretty large association, is it not?
Yeah, it is. Of the major swine breed associations, Berkshire's is definitely one, not only of the most historied, but certainly one we span across the country, and very excited to be able to showcase some of that.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to we're going to talk about the association specifically here in a little bit, but first I want to give Corey the opportunity to introduce himself. And Corey, I didn't even mention this in pre-screening, but if you would just introduce yourself and maybe some history. How did you end up being the executive director? I don't want to make assumptions, but looking at your headshot on the website, you seem like a fairly young fella. So how does a young fella become the executive director of the American Berkshire Association?
Sure. Well, and you'd be correct. Although my hairline might be receding just a little faster than ideal. So I started in my career in the agriculture industry. Growing up on a family farm, a little bit of a diversified livestock and row crop background, but directly out of college, I took a path in the ag industry that I maybe wasn't as passionate about, and I saw that the position for a director of Berkshire operations was open initially, and so I figured I'd stick my neck out there and give it a shot because the swine industry and the livestock industry is something that I've been so passionate about from a young age, and that's kind of where I thought I could bring some of my experience and talents from my first 3 or 4 years in my career into this position, and really try to help make some waves and some differences here within the association. So, the board at the time, I think took a bet on me, and here we are. So, been with the association since September of 2020, so just a little over 2 years now. So.
Very good. So what would you say the role is as the executive director? I mean, is it just any and all things?
Yeah, you kind of have to, an association, although we are large in litter recordings and other things, we are small in staff. We actually have 2 full-time staff and 1 part-time staff here in the office. So you have to wear several hats. I don't necessarily do much of the litter registrations and recordings and things of that nature, but really my position is to kind of help with the strategic, overall view of the growth and sustainability of the Berkshire breed, and of the membership, who elect a 9-member board of directors to basically create policy and develop initiatives to help progress the breed forward. And so those things come through me, and we try to put together those items and execute those. And those are my primary responsibilities. And there's a lot of layers underneath that, as you can imagine. But that's the primary function of my position.
Excellent. All right. Well, let's talk about the breed specifically a little bit, and I think a lot of our audience, being the Pastured Pig podcast, has a working knowledge of the Berkshire breed. But in your experience, what do you see? Maybe are there some misunderstandings, or are there some things that the association you kind of try to resist and try to work against? Are there challenges with this breed? Is the breed really, really taken off right now? And then even what you're seeing, again, we're kind of in the genre of pasturing pigs. So how are you seeing that outlay with more traditional swine methods?
Sure. I've often visited with several folks that, obviously their practices may be different from one another in terms of the environment that these Berkshire pigs are being raised in. But I think it's an overwhelming amount of people, regardless of their situation, that talk about just the hardiness of the breed in general. They're tough animals. And I think that's one of the unique traits that Berkshires do possess, as far as just purebred swine is concerned. And you talk about all the advantages that the breed has in terms of meat quality. I think that's been a known staple of anybody that's, tried to get into heritage breeds or anything of that nature. Know that the Berkshire breed is not only, when you have a pork chop on your plate or something like that, you can taste the difference. But it's not only that, it's been tested. So through our association and other efforts, I mean, there's been decades of research that has gone into studying the quality of Berkshire pork, and so there's a really, really high demand for that, even within the niche pork market community. The supply, it has been an issue. It just seems like producers can't make enough fast enough. Which I guess, Troy, if you want to talk about maybe some points of emphasis or ways that Berkshire breeders and producers are trying to advance the breed genetically, is Berkshires have been known to be a little slower growing. Their litter sizes maybe aren't as high as some other breeds, but I think if you take into the account that they're exceptionally good mothers, they're great milkers, and they produce a high quality product at the end of the day, on top of being a hardy animal, there's a ton of value in the Berkshire breed. I think another thing that's interesting, that I visit about quite a bit with Berkshire breeders, as far as misconceptions, is that there are a lot of programs that have tried to take advantage of the Berkshire name when marketing, Berkshire pork, or whether that be pasture raised or not. And so I think one of the challenges that Berkshire breeders face is, combating the difference between a black pig that has white on it versus an actual registered Berkshire pig. Yeah. And I could, toot the horn of the 147-year history of the American Berkshire Association. But I think it's the breed is so recognizable. They say legend has it that the pig was discovered in England, 300 years ago by Oliver Cromwell's army. And, these Berkshire pigs had a very distinct look, as far as 6 white points and the shape to their head and their body and things of that nature. And then obviously things followed suit after that. And we brought the first Berkshire pig to the United States in 1823. So there's so much history involved with the breed too, that, over the course of time, I could see how, whether that be type changes or environmental changes, different practices in raising pigs, can certainly influence the breed. And I think it has. And it's so interesting with this deep rooted history that the Berkshire breed has, is how much ebb and flow goes into the breed, when it comes to genetic advancement or uh, progress of different ways to raise these pigs. And so that's really kind of a unique trait that the Berkshires have compared to other purebred swine breeds, is that history has stuck with the breed for so long, that there are many different types of environments that these Berkshire pigs can be raised in.
Excellent, excellent. Well, wow, there's a lot to unpack there. So we'll see if I can.
There is.
I can see if I can thread this needle here. So let's back all the way up to finish weight and finish time. So again, Berkshire being a heritage breed, it kind of, in my mind, I try to picture a spectrum here, that there's this line down the middle of what we consider conventional breed and heritage breed. So Berkshire is on that right side of heritage, is on the right, so it's in that heritage breed. But what is, from your all's perspective and from your all's experience, what is the typical finish time for a Berkshire, a purebred Berkshire?
I've got some breeders that have put such an emphasis on it, that they say they can get it done in 6 or 7 months.
Okay.
In some ways that is realistic. I would think maybe with more of a pasture type of a setting, or things of that nature, you're probably looking more at 8 months, 8.5 months, to finish those pigs to a weight that's appropriate. And just the feed conversion of Berkshires we've seen in our own research trials has been very good. But I think obviously environment and diet play a lot into that. So
absolutely, yeah.
I think if the pigs are cared for, it's not realistic to think that finish time can't be between 7.5 and 8.5 months.
Yeah, and that's kind of the number I've always had in my head, is that 8 to 9 month window there. Obviously, being on pasture, like you said, environment plays a key, diet, and how much of the movement they're going to have. But so the thing that I find, and this is where getting your opinion from the association, I think, is really going to be valuable, is the Berkshire name is so recognized as coveted pork. And I see a lot of producers that say, I have Berkshire, and you don't necessarily get down in the muddy waters of, excuse me, if it's purebred Berk, or if it's a hybrid cross, or if it's it's like you said, a black pig with a white spot on it. And they're like, yeah, that's a Berkshire, because they want to be able to take advantage of the marketing side of that and say, yes, we've got Berkshire pork. It is quality stuff. And it may not necessarily even be Berkshire at that point, but that's the coveted, and I'm saying people are being deceptive, but they may have been sold an animal that, yeah, that's a Berkshire, and not really follow through that. So as from an association perspective, how much do you run into that? And is there a certain level of frustration that you guys see with that?
Yeah, well, like we say, the proof is in the pedigree, and that is where, if anybody purchasing Berkshire pork wants concrete traceability, to truly know that the product that they are purchasing, or the animal that they are breeding with, is in fact a Berkshire, there's no better way than to have that physical piece of paper in your hand that has the animal's information on it, with a 3 to 5 generation, on both sides of the pedigree there, to know sire and dam and things of that nature. So that's number one, is the proof is in the pedigree. And so for anyone out there that may be listening that has Berkshires that are not registered, or thinks that they have Berkshires that are not registered, when you are going into and utilizing the Berkshire name in your marketing, how can you prove to your customer that what you are selling, that product, is in fact what you're claiming it is? So, the Berkshire pork industry has been very, very interesting. When programs of the past, everybody that knows Berkshire most likely has heard the name Berkshire Gold in the past. That was a program established by the ABA in the late 1990s and early 2000s, that ultimately was a half-blood program to take advantage of the markets that were happening overseas in China and so forth. But I think once the export market kind of shifted a little bit for niche pork, there was maybe a little bit more of a need within the U.S. to create some sort of a marketing program that Berkshire producers could take advantage of through the association. Well, I've always been of the opinion that, the association's role is not to sell your pork, but what we can do is provide tools and resources and build industry connections to assist our membership in being able to get the most profit, for their quality product that they are producing. So actually, Troy, it's good timing here. We this summer we launched a new branded program through the American Berkshire Association called Registered Berkshire Pork. So this again takes advantage of the fact that the proof is in the pedigree, and we've got that ability to show some traceability and some heritage with the products that are being marketed. But we've also developed tools and resources for our membership that they can take direct to the consumer that talks about Berkshire pork, the advantage of pork quality and taste and flavor, but also talks about the heritage of the association and the history of the breed, and the fact that the producers that are raising Berkshire pigs are doing so because they know it's a superior heritage breed that is again all those things that I talked about earlier about mothering ability and being an easy animal to raise just in terms of hardiness and things of that nature. So it is a challenge because at times we face we kind of call them rogue Berkshire marketing campaigns that have no proof. There's no way, even if you were to look at some of the images and things that they are posting, those pigs don't look like Berkshires, and that's an even harder point, especially in this time where consumers want to know so much about where their food comes from and what practices are being taken to raise those animals. And that's where I think there's so much more value in having that pedigree from a marketing standpoint. And now with the association, we've developed this registered Berkshire pork brand. I think it just adds another layer to I guess maybe being the authority on Berkshire pork versus letting some of these rogue type programs take over.
Yeah, I love it. I love how you've tactfully worded that to the rogue breeders and rogue programs. So the thing I find interesting, and maybe this is barking up the wrong tree, but I would like your opinion on this, because I see a lot of producers, especially the pastured pork producers, who are balancing the pros that they see with Berkshire, and then maybe some of the pros they see of other breeds. So they really kind of focus on this hybrid vigor approach. So they say we have a Berkshire Duroc cross, or we have a Berkshire whatever cross. So from your perspective and marketing that through registered Berkshire pork approach, how would you recommend those people properly notify or properly market the fact that this is partially Berkshire and partially some other breed? How would you want to see them show that pedigree, or is that even an issue at that point? Because I know a lot of people really don't mess with a pedigree at that point when they're dealing with hybrids.
Sure. That's an interesting topic. There's so many breeders out there that I think understand the value of a hybrid cross. I think that's, as a livestock minded person myself, as a livestock breeder, those are things that you have to consider. When is it appropriate to bring an outcross into a purebred operation? Obviously those animals can't be registered, so you do lose the value of that. At the same time, I do think, just speaking for Berkshire crosses specifically, in a pork market setting, there is some value in a Berkshire Duroc cross, or Burrock, if you will. You're taking probably two of the highest meat quality breeds and crossing them together in hopes that you can create some sort of a hybrid animal F1 cross that has traits of both that could be successful. As far as marketing that's concerned, I think with what the National Swine Registry has done with certified Duroc pork, and what we're working through with registered Berkshire pork, there could be opportunities in the future. And I don't want to speak for anyone here, and this is all hypothetical, but there's certainly opportunities for folks that are utilizing those crossbred programs or those F1 crosses to be able to market them as heritage breed crosses. And honestly, I don't know that there's any other way to do it, because like you mentioned, you kind of, once you do the cross, you kind of lose the value of the pedigree, and so there's no concrete proof there that those pigs are what they're claiming they are.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I do think that there's some value in some hybrid vigor.
So without trying to read between the lines or box you into a corner, so do you think somewhere in the future there is a new registered breed association, or a breed that comes out that is a Burrock or something like that, to say, hey, we see the value in this? And we had the only reason I'm thinking that is we had the IPP association on a couple weeks ago, and something that's much newer, and it's like, is that smoke and mirrors? Is that something that actually has value? Is that something that we could see in the near future of something that's registered because it's such a productive cross?
Yeah, I'm not so sure that that's sustainable. In the commercial pork industry, when the Hamp Duroc cross on the boars and the F1 white line females were being introduced into pork production, I don't think that those crosses, although they're valuable, warranted any additional registration process because of that. And I don't foresee that being a process even down the road that would take place. It may be just more of a marketing type of a strategy for some folks, and who knows? I mean, somebody might decide that that's the best cross out there for niche pork production, and we could be looking back on this conversation and say, well, we were probably a little wrong there, Corey. But I think I don't see it being a sustainable opportunity in the future, but certainly one that I think people try to take advantage of.
Excellent, good answer. Appreciate that. Great. So and I don't want to come back, and I want to make sure I don't pass over the obvious, because we have to look that not all farmers are necessarily looking at producing niche pork or even finished pork at that point. That we could be dealing with breeders that are just trying to maintain the line purity, and they're the ones that are producing quality livestock for then those of us who finish for consumer production, to say, hey, even if you want to do a cross, you'll always be able to get registered Berkshire sires and dams from us. And then it's up to the next farm to then say, well, yeah, I'm going to keep those pure and produce that niche pork, or I'm going to cross for whatever production value I'm looking for. But I guess even from the marketing standpoint, if you go that route, you're the second farm that's producing, then just still having that genetics, that breed line, and that registration to say, hey, all of my sires, for example, are registered, and this is what we're getting, and then whatever they're crossing with, whether it's registered or not. But would you recommend that would be the ideal situation to go, even in a producer, from that standpoint?
Right. I mean, I think if you look at what just I like to look outside of the pork industry to get ideas and see what's worked for others. And if you look at what certified Angus beef has done for the value of registered sires and dams, even going into a commercial type of a production setting where they're not being utilized on registered bulls or registered heifers, they still have an opportunity to promote purebred genetic lines that can go and influence somebody else's operation. Now, in a perfect world, obviously everybody would register everything, because then you don't lose the genetic lineage and the heritage of the breed. And there's enough producers out there that truly believe in that, and and those are some of our best members of the American Berkshire Association. But there's still value in having those genetic lines preserved to be utilized, outside of just a purebred production setting. Even though they would lose out on the marketing opportunity to have that purebred, registered, traceable animal.
Yeah, perfect. All right. Well, one more question about the breed, and then I want to get over and give you time to talk about the association specifically. But almost like an index that I want for people to be able to come back and reference. What would you, when it comes to conformation of the Berkshire, what are some key characteristics you all look for? These are just absolute hills to die on when it comes to the conformation of the Berkshire breed, and what to look for in that.
Well, I think several traits that have been known and passed down for many generations is the structural correctness of these animals in terms of how they can move and be a valuable asset in a production setting. And Berkshires are easy doing hogs that have the ability to maintain a consistent flesh, but they're also known for muscling. They may not be having that I'll just call it a creased up muscle shape down their back, but hogs that are just really sound, really productive in terms of how their rib and their body shape is designed. And some folks can easily recognize a Berkshire by that erect ear set, and that snout that's maybe just a little short and tipped up. That I think is kind of the staple characteristics of what Berkshires are.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, that's why I even you're sitting here looking at your logo. I appreciate that, because I think that whoever drew that did a great job drawing a good representation of a Berkshire. So,
right.
Yeah. As a marketing guy, as my day job, I really appreciate that.
Yeah, that was by design.
yeah, exactly. No coincidence, right? Yeah. All right. Well, so let's talk about the association in particular, and we've kind of stuck our toe in the water a little bit on that, but the history of the association. You'd mentioned it's not something that just happened last night. This is something that's been around for a while. Give us a little history of the association.
Yeah. So it's so fascinating to me. I'm a history buff, So when I took this role, I knew that the association was one of the only single breed standing associations still thriving. But in 1875, it was recognized that the Berkshire breed needed to form an association to keep the breed pure and ensure its quality was preserved, and those types of things. So a lot of the bigger herds in the country were using imported stock still coming over from the UK. And so once they kind of agreed to establish this, the only hogs that could be imported were directly from English herds. So just to kind of centralize the nucleus of the breed there. And so only those animals would be accepted for registration when the association first started in 1875. So today, you could still go back, from probably any registration paper, and it'd probably take a person a decade to figure it out. But you could probably go all the way back in the history of the records and find something that traces back to an imported animal in the late 1800s. So I think that's pretty cool myself. The association, when it was originally founded, was in uh, was in Indiana, and then they moved it to Illinois, and then it stayed in Illinois for quite some time. And then I believe it was oh, may not get to quote me on this one, but I believe um, when the National Swine Registry was formed, um, Berkshire's moved from Springfield, Illinois, to West Lafayette, Indiana, and that's where we had been ever since. So our offices are actually conjoined with the National Swine Registry in the same building that the American Yorkshire Club built. And so, since then, we've had many, presidents and directors and folks that have come through the entire history of the association. But we've had several different breed publications. The most famous is the Berkshire News. That was established in, I believe, the late 1920s. And that went out to the entire membership and to look through some of those. As an advertising guy, Troy, you'll appreciate this. The advertisements that were done back then were so neat and kind of funny to think about, how that resonated with breeders and members back then of purebred swine versus what we do today,
Yeah.
which a lot has transitioned through the youth organizations that are out there, and maybe more of the show pig genetics versus maybe some of the older line genetics that have been out there. So it's been a organization that has changed and evolved so much over time that even with the 147 years we've been in business, it seems like um, the evolution still goes decade after decade. So very, very old history and very, very cool to be a part of.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's great. I mean, I love the fact that it's been around that long and just the history associated with that, and of course, my goodness, the breed lines that you guys have. I mean, just those records must be extensive, and very very cool to think about that from that perspective. So you said something there that kind of cracked me up a little bit. So you say you share a building with the Yorkshire Club, and so do you guys do you kind of rib one another, give each other a hard time from time to time, or how's that work out?
Well, you always have to, in any office setting. But no, we've actually, so the National Swine Registry, for those who are listening who may not be familiar, is made up of four breeds: Hampshire, Yorkshire, and Landrace. And so the American Yorkshire Club originally owned the building prior to NSR forming, and after they formed, obviously everything came under one roof. So since we've been here, we're kind of down the hall here a little bit, but we've actually worked quite a bit with the NSR on the junior side of things with the National Junior Swine Association youth programs, and also with some of our national sales and events. We collaborate with them as well, and so yeah, every once in a while I have to go down and give them a little nudge and a little jab, but we certainly have a great working relationship here.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great to have that collaboration because kind of all on the same team, just have different jerseys we wear, I guess, in that sense.
Sure.
Good stuff. So I know this. My goodness, this is probably opening a whole nother can of worms. It's just a discussion all by itself, or a podcast all by itself. But from your perspective, how much has the affordability of DNA testing and the readily accessible testing opportunities changed registration, not only for Berkshire but for anybody? I mean, from your experience, how much has that changed, and has that been a total game changer?
Yeah, in some ways it has, because some people take advantage of the opportunities that we have out there for genetic testing. There's several different companies that we work with, but one of them can do a full evaluation of a single pig's genetic traits for meat quality markers, for production traits, and not to mention just the stress gene and the NAPOL gene. those type of things that affect meat quality, testing, but also, from our standpoint, the advancements that have been made in genetic testing have allowed us to navigate the waters of potential influence of crossbreeding and things like that within the purebred registry, to kind of be able to manage and track and watch those things and have a DNA bank file of of animals that we can go back and compare other animals to and things of that nature. So it's really come a long way, and we've got a lot of producers that utilize those things. And through our association, we require a couple DNA tests for herd sires or boars that are going to be utilized if folks want to record litters out of those. The testing costs and things like that. Obviously, everything in life has become more inflated as time has gone on. But
Sure.
At the same time, I don't know that it's necessarily deterred or encouraged folks to register from that standpoint. So I do think there's quite a few that take advantage of it, and there's some that have to do it out of necessity. And of course, like anything else that costs money, you'll have some folks maybe complain and not register as many litters costs. But I think that's just the nature of working for a nonprofit breed association.
Yeah, right. Great, excellent. Well, let me ask you this question, and this is where my ignorance is going to come in a little bit, and I'm going to have you kind of steer this in a direction. But I would love for our listeners to have a scenario explained to them. So maybe even using like an example per se of why they should register, or not necessarily why, we've established why, but how they would go about registering. So let's say, and I'm sure there's variations to this, so this is where I need you to plug in what you think is the proper variation. But let's say I get a sire and a dam that's registered Berkshire, and I have an incredible litter, and I'm like, oh wow, these are awesome pigs. I want to be able to sell these as full blood Berkshire. What do I need to do as that farmer? What's the step I need to do? And then maybe, like I said, throw in some other different maybe example that makes that a little more complicated or a little easier. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. So I will throw this example out because it's the one that I see the most of. Somebody who's never raised Berkshires before, they've never raised purebred swine before, starting fresh. So they go to a farmer and they purchase a mating pair. They bring them home. They have a litter, and then they call the association and say, "Hey, I'd like to record this litter of pigs." Well, the first question I ask is, "Are you a member?" Because that will make a difference in price. And then the second question I ask is, are the pigs transferred in your name? So they might be a member, or they might have signed up for membership, but maybe they don't have pigs that registered in their name. So that would, first things first, we would have to get a transfer initiated from the breeder who originally raised those animals. So once a transfer happens, basically, that breeder goes through the process of submitting the transfer to our office. And then so now you technically and rightfully own those animals' registration papers. So then that's where the process starts. So luckily in the digital age that we operate in, a lot of that can be done through our website at americanberkshire.com. And there's a lot of resources on there that can talk you through how to register a litter and things of that nature. But one of the mistakes that I think a lot of folks that raise heritage breeds that don't record their litters is the ear notching process. And so, that the whole litter processing, part of the equation is important, not only, for the registration process, but also just for animal identification in your own farm. So that'd be kind of scenario one is you buy a mating pair, you want those things to happen, but at the same time, if your boar has not been DNA tested, we require 2 DNA tests to happen. One of those is for the stress gene, and one of those is for the NAPOL gene. And currently, until 2025, it does not matter what the status of those are. They just have to have a known status um, through our association in order to record litters out of a sire. So there's a little bit of a front work that needs to be done before the litter itself can be recorded. So once you go through the ear notching process, then there's forms that basically determine what the sex and ear notch is of each animal. Those get put into our registration system here in our office. And then once that is complete, those registration papers will then be sent out to the breeder, and you will have the opportunity then to sell, market, or even transfer those offspring to somebody else as a new owner.
Awesome. All right. So, wow, that was such a better job than what I could have come up with. Thank you. So, yeah, and I apologize for the delay there because I was actually typing that out. I wanted that in my notes. So in a perfect scenario, and this is where I really want the listeners to kind of if you're driving, obviously focus on the road, but listen to what we're saying here or what Corey's about to explain or to confirm. So if we're doing that situation, as you mentioned, I go to a farm. I buy some pigs from a breeder and I bring them home and I'm going to breed them and get to that point where I have that first litter. That there's actually an order of operation that should happen not all at once, but if we're doing things the right way, then when I take possession of those pigs from a breed farm, then I should ask that owner to do the transfer and get that started. But then I also should become very quickly a member of the breeding association because it's going to help with cost. It's also going to give us access to a lot of data and the resources the website offers. But then there's two tests for the board that need to be done, and that's, like you said, the stress gene and the NAPOL gene. But then we also need to understand how not only the method but the process of ear notching when that litter actually is being born. That process has to be done. Is that a good assumption or a good lineup of all that?
Either I explained it very well, you're very good at taking notes because that's exactly it. Yes.
Great. Yeah. So I think, and yeah, wow. I mean, that's a great example because I think so many of us, the pigs are on the ground and they say, yeah, because I just speak from my own experience. It's like the pigs are on the ground, they're all alive. The mother didn't crush them, or something horribly wrong didn't happen because of either my poor infrastructure or just bad luck, however you want to chalk it up. And then they think, oh, great, beautiful litter. Now it's time to do some of these things, and I guess the point I want to get across based on your experience is, back that truck up and do some of these things as they go along because not only is it going to make that process easier, but it's going to keep you from stubbing your toe if you haven't done the notching and you have no idea the litter's all standing there 3 days later and you're like, well, I don't remember who's who. And
right.
And that becomes a big issue. So are those resources, what we just listed off there, is that something that's available on the website? So a detailed explanation of ear notching, the process, and how all that happens? Or is that just assumed that people know that? Where do you find that key resource?
Yeah, it is. If you go to AmericanBerkshire.com, under the Member Services tab, there's forms and resources, how to become a member, our policies, different state association opportunities, learning more about Berkshire genetics. There's tons of resources there, but for this specifically, going to our forms and resources section under our membership services tab is the best way to find that information.
Excellent. So here's a dumb question for you. A, how much does membership cost? And B, do you have to possess Berkshire pigs on your farm to be a member?
I'll answer the second question first. No, you don't have to. You don't have to own a Berkshire. You don't even have to ever have farrowed a Berkshire or even looked at one in your entire life if you want to be a member of the association. So that's the good news.
There you go.
So to answer your first question, a senior membership, which we have two different kinds of membership. We have a senior, well, actually three now. We have a senior member, a junior member, and a lifetime membership. And so for a junior membership, as anyone under 22 years of age does not have to pay anything to be a member of the association. So they can go through the process of recording litters and everything else. Obviously they still have to pay for those services, but in order just to be a member of the association, those junior memberships are free. A senior membership is a one-time payment of $10. Um, and then it is required to have a herd mark, which essentially is a set of letters, 4 characters, right before the actual name of the animal. So if you raise a pig, Troy, let's say your herd mark is TROY,
Okay.
and you name a pig Bartholomew, the pig on the registration paper would show up as TROY Bartholomew, and then the ear notch of the pig. Let's say it's 1-1. So that herd mark at the front of that is required. So that way we could trace back and know exactly who raised that pig.
Yeah.
As we look through lineage, so that's required as well. So this is just if you're signing up for the very first time. So you have your $10 one-time payment to start the setup, and then you have a $5 herd mark. And then additionally, there's a $75 maintenance fee that is annually. And so the advantage of being a lifetime member is it is a $1,500 one-time fee. And there's some advantages to that. There's no late fees. You don't have to pay your annual maintenance fee, and several other things that are included in that. And so, and that's for the lifetime of a single herd mark. So if somebody, becomes a member of the association and they want to pass that herd mark down to a grandkid or a great grandkid, the lifetime of that herd mark can exist, so long as somebody establishes that lifetime membership.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
very neat opportunities.
multi-generational opportunity there. It sounds like.
Right.
No, man, that's incredible. So I love that. So very, very appropriate points of entry. So for the youth, obviously, to get them involved, zero economic barrier there. And then, for those that are kind of sticking their toe in the water, we're not looking at, thousands and thousands of dollars here to be a member and to take advantage of that. It sounds like if I did my math properly, I did go to public school, but if I did my math properly, it sounds like less than $100 a year, and you're up and rolling. And then, if you're going to look at multi-generational 20 years plus, then it would make sense to invest in a lifetime at that situation.
Sure. Yep.
Cool. Good deal. All right. Well, I promised you I wouldn't keep you more than an hour, so I've got one more question I want to ask you, because there's, as a marketing guy, I appreciate this drastically. I mean, this is, you go to people's websites and you look at a website and say, yeah, that's a website. And then you go to people's website and say, this is a resource. And when I go to the AmericanBerkshire.com website, it's a resource. There, it looks like, and of course, I'm not a member, so I can't even drill down to even begin to get into the meat and potatoes of what we're talking about here. But just what I see, there's a ton of resources on this website. So how much? I know this is a dumb question, but how much importance do you guys put on the website, and how much should members understand, or people considering membership understand, just what a resource the website is?
Yeah, you bring up a good point. I think the number one thing people do if they want to find out information is they go to Google and they type something in their box. And so when AmericanBerkshire.com pops up as the first thing when somebody searches Berkshire pigs, our goal is to ensure that website can tell the story of the ABA, and tell the story of Berkshire without ever having met somebody. So that I think is the number one goal of our site, is to provide that resource that if nobody has ever heard of Berkshire swine before, they can go to the website and virtually learn everything there is to know about our association and about the breed in particular. On top of that, we like to highlight all parts of the Berkshire swine industry, because it is multifaceted. At one point in time, Berkshires were labeled as the confinement breed. And today, I like to label them as the dual purpose breed. Berkshires are not only high in meat quality, but they're also very successful in a show ring setting as well. And so, we like to try to have all those resources available, but more importantly, we are about driving membership and increasing litter registrations and transfers. And so, being able to have those resources under there, especially under our member services tab, is very, very important to us. So there's a lot to digest throughout the website. We've obviously made some tweaks over the course of time here to make sure that it's easy to navigate and you can find the information you're looking for. But yeah, it is a tool and a resource that we hope our membership and prospective members find valuable.
Yes, yeah, and just from a total website geek, the platform you're using, I'm very familiar with that platform. It's a very solid platform, so it's going to treat you well for a very long time. So yeah. You guys made the right choice, and whoever built that built it on the right platform. So good stuff. Well, man, Corey, I can't thank you enough for coming on and really sharing your wisdom of not only the breed but of the association. And I know we have a lot of listeners. People that have come on as guests, but then people that respond, that we know there's a lot of Berkshire stock out there in the pastured pig audience. So those of you guys that have that, whether it's a black pig with white spots that you're calling Berkshire, or it's a legit Berkshire, I hope you're really kind of paying attention to this podcast and explore more what you can do with that breed and I don't want to say clean up your breed line, but focus on that more to really establish some great genetics, and I think it's going to pay off well in the long run for your farm. So I hope everyone listening looks for this and checks out the website. Obviously, the typical question I ask Corey for everyone when they're closing out is, how can people find you online? Obviously, we've hit the website, AmericanBerkshire.com, but you guys actually have a pretty good social media presence as well, right?
Yeah, we do. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we've actually just established an American Berkshire Association community page. So it's a private group on Facebook that I think is a little bit more hyper focused on membership, engagement, and kind of building that community of folks having the opportunity to voice their opinions. Whether that be about breed improvement or other things that are happening within the association or within the breed that, they'd like to get other people's advice on or just kind of get different information on as well. So we're really, we like our social media online presence. We think that, that's truly what being a part of the association is. It is a community. And so to have that interaction and conversation amongst our membership and other Berkshire enthusiasts is very valuable. So yeah, I'd encourage everyone to go on and follow our American Berkshire Association social media channels across the board.
Very good, very good. I also see there's a YouTube channel.
Yes,
it has some pretty good videos out there, even from the shows and some how-to type information. So that can all be linked. I'm going to put down in the show notes the link to the website because I really want to drive people there first. And of course, that's where you're going to be able to find all the social links and those type of things as well. But start with the website and check that out. And again, if you're considering Berkshire, then I would recommend jumping on board and becoming a member. Well, Corey, again, I can't thank you enough for your time and sharing your knowledge and wisdom with us. And man, I pray you have a great week.
Well, thanks, Troy. Same to you. Appreciate the opportunity to come on, and hopefully the audience finds some value.
All right. Excellent. Well, take care. We'll talk to you soon. Well, listening to that playback, I had forgotten that was one of the interviews that I did when I had the creeping crud. So I don't know if you picked up on that, but the voice and the congestion and all that was on the verge of going. So I hope that wasn't too uncomfortable, and maybe even heard some extra lip smacking going on there. I was pounding the Jolly Ranchers just to keep from going into a coughing fit. So appreciate Corey coming on and putting up with that. Fortunately, that wasn't a video podcast because it would have looked like the show what geek I am. The xenomorph in the movie Aliens, just this constant flow of stuff. So we'll just leave it at that. But man, I really appreciate the conversation with Corey. It was exciting to talk with them, and looking forward to adding some additional breed associations to our discussion as we kind of do a deep dive into those specific breeds and talk about the pros and cons of not only the breed, but the associations associated with them. Well, all right. If you guys have any topics you'd like me to discuss, if you'd like to come on the podcast, or if you'd like to, if you just like to complain, this is just a good time to complain. Everybody in the world's complaining right now. So if you just like to complain and you like to just get it out, just give me a call. I'll be your ears. I'll listen to it. I may put you on mute at some point or go do some laundry. But if you got a vent, just get it out. I feel a little saucy tonight. No, really, if you would like to come on the podcast, if you've got some suggestions for upcoming episodes, by all means, reach out to me. You can go to thepasturedpig.com and use our entry form there. You can just email me at troy@redtoolhouse.com and just let me know what you'd like. Well, again, I can't thank you all enough. Those of you that support us on Patreon, appreciate that. And again, if you would have the opportunity to join us on that and support our efforts here, I would be deeply, deeply appreciative. Well, I pray everyone have a great week and enjoy this fall weather while it lasts. I think some of you New Englanders are getting ready to lose it all, but we may hold on to another couple weeks here before things get too crazy. All right, take care.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of the Pastured Pig Podcast. To learn more about our podcast or to submit topics or recommend guests for future episodes, visit redtoolhouse.com.